the activities that we did really focused on sort of characterization and physicality. It was really interesting to see actually how people's characters developed.
I think the main thing really was that I learnt how to kind of draw on everything that we'd done in the rehearsal process.
I think it's the improv worked well. I mean, I've never done a show where there was so much improvisation.
Remember, you and your audience are opposite teams, yeah? Your audience want to feel comfortable. They know you're on this train, yeah, whatever. But they don't want to have eye contact with you. That makes you feel uncomfortable.
So what I wanted to do as a director was give the audience a sense of how they want to make the audience feel. So then they could spin that on its head and know how you make an audience feel uncomfortable. You want the intimacy of the performance. So the rehearsals were often very intimate and getting to know each other and being aware of your space and who's around you.
To match that performance, you are allowed to enter my circle of scary.
It was so different to everything else we do at Argosy. Just the way we were with each other, we had to do a lot of improvising and on-the-spot stuff.
Basically, it was very much about getting everybody, first of all, together, to work together, because I think that was quite important. And then some unusual activities that were designed to get us thinking differently and acting as a team, really.
And where you feel that you've got standing, and then put your arms out. Just don't make any noise. I want you to and just stay where you are. What are you going to do? You can move your arms.
I did want to expose vulnerability to support the actors in their emotional development of their roles. And I would do things like I would take them outside and I would pretend someone's left and I would actually be honest and I would actually make them scared. But it did actually take a lot of focus. Remember the emotion. Remember the movements. Remember the face expressions. Remember how you are affecting yourselves. I'll be lying to you.
And just through that, just by using your imagination, you create this completely like character. It was great to see from the start where people were quite self-conscious to the end point where, you know, people had fully developed characters. Those activities that we did definitely brought it to life.
I would put them in a situation, so I would kind of go into role and I would tell them their position within this asylum.
A whole lot of you. Come on.
And then they would start to think about their story and develop their story while they were being shouted at by, I was kind of saying I was like this owner of this asylum.
When you're in the zone, when Sam was shouting at you like that, how you'd forget about everyone else around you and you'd do exactly as he said.
And I think they felt probably quite afraid and worried and were able to put themselves in the shoes of a vulnerable character.
Just being able to physically practice the scaring, not that I was actually involved in the scaring in the end, but it was still quite a bit of fun just so everyone got to know each other and we all knew roughly where we all stood and we could all rely on each other.
I've never done a show where there was so much improvisation. Normally you go straight into the show, straight into the character, and scripted lines. Of course, this was a big difference when there's hardly any lines scripted.
Well, well, well. What have we here? Look at this nurse with his eyes.
Nurse and specs.
Oh yes, a bit of shock treatment should cure that. Manic laughter as well, a sure sign.
More improv based on original actions, etc.
So in the end, we had a story that the audience could simply follow just to engage them, to get their attention. But obviously, you kind of get their attention in this kind of performance and then you throw them around and change them anyway.
So working in a theatre, and take for granted the fact that the theatre's yours.
and nobody interrupts the getting. No, when you're up a ladder and doing things, no one shouts at you or people don't walk through. But we were getting in whilst the train journeys were going on.
We're just working out where the train stops.
Right, okay. Well, we'll put the speakers out. We know
And
roughly.
where's the power coming from here?
Another generator.
Which is where? Going to be where? Over there.
Somewhere over there. Somewhere.
So you then had to take the public into consideration. So you had to be careful where you put your kit, your cables, because there were train journeys going on all the time whilst we were setting up.
Yeah, and usually health and safety in theatres are quite high, but then when you're trying to kit a train station with their own health and safety rules, but then trying to imply theatrical rules in at the same time, you know, your head's full of different things, and you're all constantly thinking, should I be leaving this here? Should I be putting this up here? You know, will this interfere with anything else?
I think it's hard work, especially for the technical team working over 3 stations, you know, a mile, loads of heavy equipment, they've got to carry it everywhere. But it's about introducing people to new ways of working and working in different spaces and working with different concepts and ideas. I wanted to give the actors unification in terms of what they were wearing. So they all wore the same boiler suits, and we spent a lot of money on makeup.
And it was literally a case of darkening your eyes to make yourself look horrific. And then everybody got let loose with a pot of blood. And it just got blood splats everywhere. When the lights hit you, it changes the whole look of your face.
The characters who were welcoming the audience to the train, they would speak to the people boarding the train. They're almost building up this sort of anticipation, what could happen, and freaking them out.
Whenever people see smoke and haze, they automatically get spooked out or start coughing.
And also how we position the lighting, so to get like the big shadows and the creepy effects that we wanted to get, and certain colours. So knew we wanted to use the greens and the orange because that was quite scary, quite freaky.
I literally played with the minds of those in the queue. Everybody else was all dressed up. Everybody who was coming on the train were dressed up. They were out frightening each other anyway. To have somebody standing behind them, all with makeup on and everything else, was nothing unusual until they sort of like turned around and went, hello.
And it's interesting as the night goes through, the first few trains you get a load of kids dressing up, and then the last train you get a load of adults dressing up. They still want to celebrate the idea of Halloween, and they still want to be scared in the same way, and they still are scared, so the outcome is the same, and it really shows how the show is accessible to all different ages.
Out there in those woods, all the horrible things that have happened and all those horrible films will happen there tonight all at once. So you are going to have to be vigilant and careful and sensible at all times.
My character was Special Officer Tina. She was Special Constable set with the job of accompanying the public officers that were looking for the evil professor.
The audience were meant to feel that they are on the side of the police officer. They were going on a journey with her, that they were on her team, and they soon found out that she had ruined it for them.
Oh no, so just started. I just hope it don't work.
The first part, when the train goes past the generator, they get out and there's a bit of dialogue. Sam West did some dialogue with and they got someone from the audience came up and pulled a lever down and it turned the power off.
Just all the way down to the floor, I think. Don't know if it will move though, you see, just all the way down to the floor.
off the train and I explain the situation, and then I can't unlock turn it off, and then you had to get a member of the audience to turn off the generator. And it was easier when you had people that were willing, especially if it was a kid.
Loosen it for you anyway. Hey guys, we're going into the...
And while all this is going on, me and like 6 others are sort of sitting in the tent, waiting to come out. It's quite funny, just sort of sat there ready. And on some occasions you did hear people go, "Is that a tent over there?" It's like we just wanted to shine a light and just go, "Yes," and freak them out, but we couldn't, we had to be silent. So the train would pass, it would go off to the next platform. And as that's doing, we can finally come out the tent, we take our positions sort of behind trees.
Hastill Station was with the professor who ran the asylum and his evil nurse.
We're all officers and we're here to stop you from releasing the patients. No, you can't be serious.
It was mainly a long piece of script to give the train a chance to turn around.
Open the doors and set them all free. That's why I'm...
Yes, that would be terrible, wouldn't it?
So as the train's coming back, this once deserted area is now populated with these freaks. And it was really atmospheric, because the train would sort of break down right where it stopped before, where the generator was.
My character was up at the generator, and we were supposed to be the inmates that had escaped after they'd let everyone out of the asylum. So we were the first people that the train came into contact with after they started their return journey, and we were the people who jumped onto the train.
And when you're there, you're basically sat opposite one person. And when you're in that sort of situation, you're in luck whether or not that person's going to be with you in that journey. Or in some cases, you'll have someone who's absolutely like, "Ah," and you're like, "Yeah, right, I can have some fun here." And it's fantastic. And like people behind you just sort of tap them, or go up slowly behind them and sort of breathe on their neck, that sort of stuff.
The fact that these inmates, they were just insane, and you didn't know what they were going to do or what they'd done, and they came and they sat next to you and just stared at you, or like played with your hair, or would tell you stories of what they've done, and these members of the public just didn't know how to react.
And usually when you go on like ghost rides and scary theme park rides, you have the action where the actors come out and scare you, but you don't anticipate them getting on the train with you and actually travelling the rest of the journey with you.
And the passengers are a little bit at an odds as to what's going to happen next, and then all of a sudden the strobe lights come up, you've got wielding zombies literally attacking this train, and they just don't know where to go and what to do next.
There were people who were screaming, girls crying and all sorts of stuff, and even older women, mothers crying like mad. And that was fantastic. That's an immediate reward, better than about the end of a show, because it's an immediate reward, whereas you have to wait an hour and a half for the bows.
That was very scary at the end, where you think the train pulls into the station and you think, oh, the experience is over, and off you go, and that's the end of the evening, thanks very much, goodbye, and then here comes somebody with a massive great chainsaw chasing you around the Lido.
And it was just great fun with a chainsaw, chasing people, because they were generally scared, and sometimes you keep them screaming for a good few minutes, and they were petrified.
It worked well because it meant that it cleared them off the platform so we could get the next train on, because we were working on such a tight schedule.
On the Sunday night, we decided to do something a little bit different, and I said, look guys, let's just go and get them. And as the train pulled into the station, and they just went for them. They left the station pretty quickly.
We were all there, it was the last train, and you just sort of wanted to make the most of it. So as these people are getting off the train, and we're just sort of like, should we go back? Or should we just go and freak the hell out of them? So the audience couldn't even get off the platform because we were just there sort of huddled around.
that was really good to do. And I say the audience at the end on the very last train, but just didn't know where to run. They tried to get off the station, but at each turn there was somebody stopping them.
About 3 or 4 of us trapped this lady against the fence, and she just could hardly breathe. She was so frightened by it all, and the director allowed us to do that, so it gave us that flexibility to do something different.
And I think that was a great way to end the show. And yeah, I don't think we took it too far. I think we probably freaked a few people out, but overall, that sort of experience was like, you know what, we're at the end. Let's just go all out.
You're actually giving the audience something that they can buy into and they can enjoy, although they might see it as a Halloween event that they just get scared at. In actual fact, what they're seeing is something quite different and unusual. When you get a train of 100 people coming up, oh, that was brilliant. You know, and I was lucky enough as a director, whereas the cast often weren't, to see that and hear that. That was really nice. It's really rewarding. And also to see the actors get so much out of it. It's a team effort, and I think as a director, I want to be in that team, hence why I dressed up and did it as well.
I don't think it's an experience that you can get anywhere else, but to be on a train and to be completely isolated in one space, like you cannot get off that train, you have to stay on it and just, you know, accept what's going to happen to you. And as well, I mean, there was a script, there was characters, people got really involved in it. It wasn't just about, you know, dressing up in makeup and running at a train, you know, there was substance to it. But I think, yeah, the reason why it was so popular was because you just can't get that experience anywhere else.